on this computer. Okay, so I think that we mentioned this at some point. I did in some group with, but I think it was us, but I'm not sure. But if we didn't, I want to go back and say, particularly because I thought these last 5 chapters were particularly particular. That when the Jews were coming back into Jerusalem, it's an awful lot like us coming back from COVID. It's a tremendous amount like us coming back from COVID. Some people decided to stay. They decided to stay in Babylon. Some people are never going to come back to church. And the people who do come back are going to come back in waves. You know, there's the first batch and the second batch and the third batch. And, you know, we're going to have batches of people that come, whether they come back to our church or they come to our church from someplace else. But it really struck me that we were emptied out. And there were the remnant that were still there. Mary Beth and me and Mary and Andy and Estuardo, and pretty much everybody else was gone. And we weren't there all the time, but it's been like, and it just really struck me. Let's see, series of waves. And though based on a hard new reality, and the reality is that we can only afford one pastor, to truly begin reshaping our, you know, this is what we need to do. We need to reshape our Jerusalem. We need to rethink what we're going to do and reshape it. And what can we take? What lessons can we take from Isaiah? What lessons can we take from Acts, who are in a similar position? They're starting a whole new church. They're figuring it out. What lessons can we take from that? And what can we take from church history? Both, you know, way back when in the dawn of time, when those crazy old Scots were getting together, and thinking through how to do church. I am so in awe of those guys, and how they, well, and it was later on, but how they thought through every possible contingency. It's mind numbing. But our own history, what can we learn from our history? What are things that we can just jettison? It was great in 1960 and 2022, maybe not, or 2023, maybe not, maybe not. And there are things to adopt from other churches. There are things from our own history to let go. And there are things that we should cling to, because they are critically important, both to faith in general, but to GPC, which may, you know, there are going to be things that are really particular to us, like maybe the flowered cross. The flowered cross apparently is incredibly important. I didn't realize that, but apparently it's incredibly important. Processing apparently is incredibly important. Who knew?
How are you finding these things out?
You try to change them.
Okay, gotcha.
And your hair gets blown back. Okay, we're not going to do that.
Carolyn, this is
Yes.
called Church 3.0.
Exactly. And I really think if you go back and read particularly these last 4 chapters, it just screamed at me. It's like us, because, you know, we didn't get sent away because we were terrible. Although I'm sure, you know, none of us were perfect. I know
There's always room for improvement.
I wasn't, and I'm not. But it really kind of struck me. And I encourage you to go back and read from, let's see, it particularly,
that in mind.
Starts in, give me a second, 56 to 66, according to my unbuddy Brueggemann. But I do agree with him about this. If we accept chapters 56 to 66 as a reflection of the work and discipline of reformulation, we notice that this poetry begins with a resolve about social justice, which in fact it does. And then the whole rest of this chunk is all about social justice and how we should see ourselves and how we should see ourselves in the world. And I said it before you left.
Okay.
Ciao.
Thank you. You have a good one. Enjoy the Holy Week, people.
You too.
You also, Evie. We'll see you at lots of things.
All right. So
So I have a question, Carolyn, since you
Sure.
brought that up.
Sure.
And I'm going to be bad politically and just,
you go
be
right
polite.
ahead.
okay? I apologize if I offend anyone. I have many friends of many political persuasions who are Christian.
Hmm.
I have a really, really hard time right now with my deeply Republican friends who are Christian. I don't understand their perspective of the Bible. I don't think that's what the New Testament, I think a lot of what they're saying is in the Old Testament, but I think the New Testament overrides it. And so I don't, as we're having these talks in our church, is that going to be part of our problem? Because my understanding of this church as I'm meeting people is this is a purple church, which is a good thing.
Mm.
It's not like I don't want to have, I only want people who share my opinion to be my friends. I don't want that.
Mhm.
But I am struggling especially if we're going to start defining what we want to be as Christians. I have some Christians define themselves in ways that I consider wrong, just bluntly wrong. And how hard are we going to fight those battles? Or is it more important to stay together in a congregation? It's patient and friendly and caring.
You ask a very good question that I have struggled with again and again and again and again. And I don't have a good answer for it. And I there isn't a party line that I know of. If there is, I am unaware of it. And I think that is a lot of what the next year or so is going to be about, is really about discernment and how we I need to take a little rabbit hole trip. 10 years ago, maybe even more. I believe it was during the whole gay marriage brouhaha. And there
That only
were
took 3 decades.
that was very divisive. That was extremely divisive in our church. Extremely, extremely divisive. And there are a lot of people left. A lot.
I was gonna say, we're still not open and affirming.
Well, we're not, but no.
And yet people left anyway, Mary.
Oh, yeah.
Because we talked about it.
And they left for both reasons. Some because we
Uh-huh,
did,
yeah.
and some because we did.
Yeah.
And they were, anyway. There were at that time some friends, and I don't know that Norm ever named who these people were, but they were good friends. And they were absolutely on opposite ends of the pole, politically and religiously. And they would sit in prayer group and genuinely pray for the other, and not for them to change their minds, which is always, it's where I struggle. Help them soften their necks so they see the right way.
Mhm.
But they would genuinely pray. Do you remember that sermon, Mary? It just, I thought this is exactly why I really love GPC, is that people can genuinely pray for someone who you vehemently disagree with to be uplifted, and to find, to however it is they find the Holy Spirit working through them, find the Holy Spirit working through them in this process.
I don't know if I was here for that one. I was here for the Can We Talk series.
It was somewhere in the middle of that, I think. It was,
I'm here. I'm just cooking dinner. So
oh, you,
sorry.
that's okay. You cook away. But that has, I would say we are less good about talking about things now than we were. Not that we were good about it, because people, it's hard to talk about stuff that you are very passionate about. It is. It just
I
is.
think in general in this country, we're less good about talking about things right now.
Yeah.
It's just,
I agree.
that seems to be generally true. We have more difficulties at family gatherings, et cetera. It just is, it is what it is right now.
Yeah. And several years ago now, we did a couple of different mini series. No, the Thorns came. That was back when you guys and the Thorns appeared at about the same time, and I could never remember. You have nothing to do with each other except that you guys showed up at the same time, and you both came from the West.
I
The
didn't know that
Whiteheads
Pat Barb came, that's Pat Kazaya,
Or
right?
Pat
Barb-
Kazaya
Okay, okay.
and
I had no
Yeah.
idea that they came at the same time. That's what, I did find out their
Yeah.
daughter was living in Colorado. That's where,
yes,
is Daniel's mom?
yeah, that much I don't know.
Okay.
My daughter is having kittens. I'm going to try and text her and see if. Oh, what kind of soup did you send home with me? I don't know. I think it's beef stew.
Your daughter's having kittens about soup. Well, that just puts it
No.
all in perspective, doesn't it?
I don't know. It was in a little box. I don't know. We sent it home.
Whose
with
mom
you.
were you talking about? It's Paul's parents is Pat and
Hi, dear.
Barb.
Oh, I thought there was a
Yes,
little boy
he
who was with
used
us on
that
Saturday named
stuff.
Daniel. He
I
was
think
with,
that's their grandson.
that is their grandson. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Paul and his family actually go to, I'm gonna blank on which church. Anyway, they go to a different church in the area. But like they were here for the Show Tuesday because he's a Cub Scout, you know.
Ah.
So
Okay.
yeah. So yeah. And Paul and his sister are twins.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, their daughter that passed away, yeah, they were twins.
Okay. You went, oh, did you go down the Grand Canyon raft?
Yes, a bunch of
Oh,
times.
awesome. Nice, girl.
Yes, a bunch of times. And I've recruited
Oh,
a lot
a
of
bunch of
GPC to go-
times. That's really special. Good for you.
Yeah, I've recruited a bunch of GPC to go with me. So if you're interested.
When?
Well, I went this past summer, so the next time my group will be going will be in 2 years. We kind of go every 3 years.
I love to go.
Wow. I'll have to think about it. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm old enough now that I'm like wondering if I should.
I'll go with you, Lisa. We'll take the glamping one. It'll be great.
This is the glamping one. It's a
Oh, okay.
motorized raft.
Oh, yay.
I don't think there's any other one that goes down.
Okay.
Oh no, you can paddle. There's paddle rafts.
Just paddling, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean the guides usually, but yeah, we go with the
Okay, yeah.
commercial outfitter.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk to you. We'll talk.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Did you guys watch Big Bang Theory?
Yeah,
Yeah, occasionally.
Okay. Did you ever see the ones where Sheldon would knock on the door? Penny, 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 Penny,
yeah.
Penny,
I saw
Penny.
him do that.
That's what Sarah was doing. Mom, the corn salad's different. Mom, the corn salad's different. Mom, the corn salad's different. I
I
know.
believe it was Penny, Penny, Penny.
So did you solve her dilemma?
I said, I didn't make the corn salad. Call your dad.
Pass the buck is what you did.
Yes, I did, because I didn't make the corn salad. And he made it using this stuff that she really liked. So I thought she'd like it, but
She'd be happy. Yeah.
well, she may like it, but it's different. She had to sit in a different spot. She can't do that.
Oh, Carolyn, it's just like church. It's different.
Yeah, it's different. Anyway,
Mom, this is how we always did it.
Judy, at your new church that you go to, do you have a particular place you sit?
Well, I sit with this woman that I kind of like
well, I asked her one day, can I sit with you? And we kind of got together.
You bonded.
Because nobody would ask you to sit with them, God forbid, So, we move around because there's this gentleman that comes every once in a while, and he's like 6'3", and we like to sit in the front because I'm short and I can't see.
So you can't
we
sit
have
behind
two-
him.
We have 2 screens and the pastor, and he sits, but I think there's something, no, I'm not being funny. I think there's something wrong with him because he kind of like moves along in the pew. So then I was moving so that I could see the pastor, and the woman behind me was moving. So we figured we couldn't sit near him anymore.
Pew creep.
And the pastor said, one week we were sitting in the back. She says, why are you all the way in the back? I says, because we couldn't, we told her about this gentleman, and the lady I was with was an usher, so she had to sit in the back. She says, you're throwing me all off. She says, I use you, Judy, as a focal point. I said, well, get somebody else.
It's like, where's Waldo? It'll be great.
But I said, well, you couldn't see me anyway with this gentleman walking, 6'3" in front of me, and I'm 5'4", hello. But no, I mean, and you see in church though, people have their own seat.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
In my old church, I was the usher, and I used to sit with a friend, and we had a pew. I came back from ushering, my jacket was gone. Somebody came and they wanted that seat, and they moved my stuff to another pew.
Oh, wow.
That's chutzpah.
Yeah, that is chutzpah. That's a good way to put it.
And then I went to a Presbyterian church way back when I was church shopping originally, and I sat, and there was nobody in the pew, and this elderly couple came, and I got up and I let them go in, and they kept moving further and further and further until I was almost out of the pew. So somebody said to me, you sat in Mr. and Mrs. seat. I says, well, they should have just asked me to move. Needless to say, I didn't go back there again.
Now we really
Aw.
are Big Bang
So
Theory.
I've had more experiences
Sheldon,
with
you're in
pews
my
than you want to know. What? So
I said, now this really is the Big Bang Theory. It's like, Sheldon, you're in my spot.
Yeah, no, very much so. Yeah, yeah. I noticed it's really funny. So we bounce back and forth between 9:30 and 11 o'clock service, just depending on what's happening. And so we have a certain place. I actually have always made a point all my life when I'm attending church not to have a spot. But Paul likes a spot because he's a little slower to get to know people. I don't think so much true anymore in retirement, but certainly when he was working, he was much quieter about everything. And so he liked to stay in one spot and sort of get to know the people around him, right? And I got that, right? So what I noticed is that we have a spot at 9:30 because that's when we normally go, and it's hard to make Paul move from that spot. But then when we go to the 11 o'clock service, that is somebody else's spot.
Oh, yeah, that is.
So I tend to switch like the whole other side of the church. And I remember the first day he said, what are you doing? I said, well, those are somebody else's seats. So I thought we'd sit on the other side, and he's just so funny. So we haven't found a second spot for the 11 o'clock service. Now we just sort of move around.
well, I know I like to sit on like the pulpit side because I could see better, and with the
Uh-huh.
screen and like the choir and the handbell. But I mean, if there's nothing there, I'll go I don't really care as long as I
Yeah.
can see that. I don't care where it is as long as I can see. But the woman I sit with, she likes a spot, and she's, I've been sitting here for 20 years. And I said, okay.
Then it's time to move.
At the church where I was at elder, all elders were required to move every month. You had to sit in a new
Oh,
spot.
that's a
every
good
month. It was a
idea.
requirement of every elder. And some people really didn't like it, but I thought it was a great idea.
I think that is.
Because
a
then you
great
get to
idea.
see new people, talk to new people, and of course, elders, people, when they find out you're an elder, they talk to you about things going on, and so you have
Mhm.
information to bring.
That's
was
a
Well, this
great
church,
idea.
they kind of frown on you talking when you go in.
Really? Isn't that interesting?
Oh, really? Before the
because they-
service starts?
It's the Presbyterian church, yeah. and they, we also had a thing about clapping, but that I knew because and
You know,
which-
Judy, I think one of the things this Sunday was part of the reasons why I love this church, because you might have noticed Mary Beth cracked a joke and the whole church cracked up. And I mean, I just like that it's more like a conversation than one person. I grew up Episcopalian, and there the priest, the pastor actually sits higher than you, and it's very much of a
Yeah.
hierarchy situation. And it was always a guy, and weren't supposed to talk. And anyway, I just find it so much more welcoming.
well, the pastor's funny. I mean, everybody laughs and everything, but you know, they had a big thing about clapping, that it's supposed to be for God's honor, not for the people. So she said that to show appreciation, you could smile at them. Okay, so
I think Mary Beth cracked that joke at Carolyn's expense.
maybe
Made
Okay.
Carolyn
She did, but it was great. It was a great joke.
It was.
maybe they should pull out like a ticket when you go in, and it gives you a seat number,
Ooh,
and you get what you get, and don't get upset.
I love
I
that
think the
idea.
clapping thing is true for a lot of churches, actually, because I noticed this church doesn't actually normally clap, but I think every time the kids sing, I notice that we clap, and then we like feel like we have to clap for whoever else sings after that. So
You know,
We get clapped for a lot in the bell choir. Sorry, Carolyn.
yeah, you do. You do.
yeah,
I think Mary said something about this today, as a matter of fact, and or I think it was, yeah, it must have been today. That clapping did used to be completely frowned upon because it was thought of as you're saying thank you for entertainment. But it seems more like in churches these days, you're clapping much like you laugh. You're clapping to say,
Mhm.
I appreciate, I do appreciate this. I'm with you. It was funny. It was a great sermon. It was whatever.
yeah.
It spoke to us. The praise band, I thought, was the stuff that they sang this weekend was perfect for their harmonics. They sounded so good. And when
They really
were-
did on that first song in
Did they?
particular. They did a great job.
I thought so too. And I clapped for them while they were warming up because they just sounded so great. So anyway, that was a fun rabbit hole that I'm glad we went down. And that's a long way of saying, I don't know. I don't know. And I think it's something that we need to not pussyfoot around. I think it's something we need to address head on and figure out a way to acknowledge that there are people that you can love that you are never going to agree with.
Yeah. I mean,
And
certainly most of us have that in our family.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And wonder how, if you think that, how do you get your socks on in the morning? I mean, seriously.
Well, I think the challenge is, when do you speak up and how do you do it with love?
Yeah.
You know, how do you
I-
do it in a way that is not accusatory? But there are certain things that I find at almost 64, I'm not willing to just sit quietly by and ignore a comment like that. So I am going to say something, and the response has not always been good. I have certain people in the family now who just like don't even want to talk. And I'm okay with not talking any politics, frankly. But you know, the problem is almost everything is politics nowadays.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed. You know, so
Well, and it's one thing to be like, okay, we're not going to talk politics, right? Because that's sort of the agreement that we have with multiple sections of my family. And that's good for like not randomly starting an argument for no reason, which has happened before when someone just brought things up and meh. But the other part is when someone just casually says something racist in conversation.
that's what I'm not willing to let go anymore, Mary.
Right, exactly. Like you can
Sorry.
get accused of bringing politics into it, but then you're just like, but I'm not okay with that. Just
No, I
Because
argue that is not political. This is like
right.
being
That's what I'm
human
saying.
in a
Like that's where I
country.
feel like saying, oh, we
Yeah.
just don't talk politics and everything is fine. I have the same problem you do, that someone says something that's racist or homophobic or whatever ick.
Or
you know,
joke.
and like if my silence is complicity, then I'm not
Yeah.
willing to be silent. And then someone's like, well, you're bringing politics into it, and I'm like, and you're a racist. Great. You know, like,
No, so I've just said, I said, so guys, this is about we live in a country that is multicultural and has many, many different kinds of people living in it with many different designations, you know, and people get to choose their gender. This is what where we live now. So jokes about that are not jokes anymore.
Yeah.
I realized that in the 1960s, good old boys, I listened to men crack jokes about women, and I would learn to just be quiet about it. Guess what? You notice you don't crack jokes like that around me anymore, and I'm not going to be quiet about it if you do. So that now applies to a whole bunch of other things. All right. and they don't like it, but so I'm not mean. I don't say, gosh, sure, a racist. I actually don't say, gosh,
Yeah.
sure. Although I did
Yeah,
have someone ask me one time, is it one of our older lady, our aunt, is it racist that I don't want to date a black man? I said, yeah. She did not take that well. I said, but guess what? I have a black friend who doesn't want to date a white person. Is that racist? Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
it's also how you say it.
Yeah.
If you're having a conversation, you say it like that rather than how I did. I'm like, great, you're a racist. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard. And I
It
think
is.
that in church, the gay issue is a big deal. The gender issue. I don't really, for me personally, I really don't understand why we are so unhappy about this tiny, tiny segment of population that already their lives are so damn hard. Why do you care? Why does this matter to you? Why is this offensive? I just don't get it.
Yeah.
And,
well, I can have a conversation with you someday of why it's such a big deal if you want, as a recovering evangelical. But
there's something in the evangelical part of it that is just totally, you can't be anything.
oh yeah,
But
oh,
what?
yeah.
Look at who Christ collected. Christ hung out with the fringes of society on purpose.
Yeah, but they like Paul better anyway.
And I would argue that some of the, or many of the things that Paul said that we now read as very sexist and homophobic and so on and so forth were actually in defense of those people, that for all intents and purposes, the only homosexuality that these people were aware of was what men would do to conquered other men. And it was rape. It was just flat rape. And that was the only homosexuality they really
Or like altar boys. Yeah.
well,
no, but like the kid, like it's against kids too.
yes.
I went to a whole conference on this. There's a whole organization called the Reformation Project that has gone through a lot of the biblical texts that people are usually using against homosexuality and said this is a different way to interpret them, that the Bible doesn't have to be against it. And here are the reasons why, and they're good reasons. So yeah.
Well, I would argue that's really what Paul was trying to say. Not that that's how we read it.
Right.
Women should cover their hair mainly because that was like walking around with your boobs hanging out in that time. And
right.
Yes, it should not be an issue, but I don't want men to walk around with their genitalia hanging out either. I just don't think that's appropriate. I just don't, particularly not in church. But
I can't even imagine this. Okay. But I did think that the covering of the hair was part of, I thought that was part of being Jews originally, where you cover your head to show respect for God.
And
which is true of many, many religions. I mean, that's what a lot of scarves on the heads are and things like that.
Right. Well, and apparently that was, it was the nicely turned ankle of the early aughts, the literal early aughts. A woman's hair was her
Interesting.
mojo.
Okay.
Yeah, go figure. But anyway, yeah, people will turn stuff to support their theory in a lot of different ways. And I'm willing to be wrong about that stuff. I read a wonderful story. It's called it's a biography of Paul Among the People, and an explanation that said, Paul really isn't a misogynist. He's really not. And this,
I have yet to be convinced of that, but that's okay.
I will loan you the book. I think she makes a very compelling argument, I thought. He was cranky.
Mhm.
He was Paul Cranky Pants, but anyway, yeah, we have a lot of work, and no, there are a lot of ways to go about it, and we were going down that road. In fact, we were doing that with that class was preparatory to having the lady who is the, oh, what is her title? She was the Presbytery woman in charge of intersectionality or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And we were going to have her come and talk about talking, how to talk to each other, how to work through some of these things. And the day that she was supposed to come was the last day before we closed church down. Literally, that was the day.
Wow. Okay.
So put the
It
kibosh
just
on
seems
that.
like we're getting ready to have some pretty serious, deep conversations, and I think that while we're doing that, we need to be able to talk honestly about things, but
I agree.
with love, you know?
Yes, yes. And that was a large part of what the Can We Talk was about. There were certain stipulations about you talk, I talk. Mary, I was unable to go because that was when I was working 47 jobs. Mary, you went to those things. There was a very set structure, and one of the last things was when the one side had their say and the other side had their say. Before you parted company, each side had to say, am I correct, one or two things that you found compelling about the other one's argument about what they said.
Yeah, or we might have even done that in the beginning also, of just like say something positive about the other side as we start this conversation, like going into it, so like I think from the side of pro LGBTQ, ours was, we respect that you take scripture so seriously, and like that's genuine, because like the people that I've met that are not, that really believe this because they think that's what the Bible says, they're not trying to be hateful on purpose, but they're like, if you're asking me to choose between the Bible and this thing, I'm going to choose the Bible because that's what my faith says. Like they really feel like there has to be a choice made.
But I would argue that the Bible demonstrates Christ is loving and open and inclusive.
Right. And I would too, but I'm saying like their interpretation, they feel like it makes them choose. And so the affirmative statement was, we respect the fact that you take scripture so seriously, that this is such a strong part of your faith, and I forgot what there was on the other side, but they had an equally positive statement. It's going into it with good faith that like the other person isn't just automatically a jerk,
Oh,
yeah.
No,
But I mean, it helps lay that groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I've learned with these conversations is trying to figure that out ahead of time. Are you someone that's willing to have a conversation, or are you just going to yell at me?
Oh,
because if you're not actually willing to have the conversation, then why are we bothering?
Yeah, I will not be a platform for you.
Yeah. I've learned who I can engage with on social media, who's willing to have an actual conversation, and who is just like, man. And I'm like, well, okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, then.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yes, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Krista Tippett, who is one of my heroes, has done a lot of work on having conversations like this. And I hope that we will avail ourselves of some of the resources that she makes available to people for free. So
I think there's a functionality to having a variety of opinions in a church this size. This is a pretty big church. And it would not, I just don't think it'd be very functional or useful to have everybody agree with me, for instance. If you talk about spheres of influence in life, if you divide everything up, I'm at 10 and somebody else is at 1. I can pretty much affect people in like 10 through 6, opinion wise. Anybody below that, I need to depend on someone else who's further down the line to talk to those people to change their minds. But that doesn't mean I can't have conversations. It just means I'm not going to have any kind of conversation that I'm trying to change their mind because we're so opposed in our opinions. But you can still have a conversation. right?
Yes. And
That-
I
that doesn't
think,
seem-
there are, and there comes a point with people on either end of the spectrum who feel disrespected and unwanted
Mhm.
because they have not been treated with love. And it's a shame. It really is a shame.
Mhm.
But anyway, wow, we have ranged far and wide.
Yeah, it was good though.
It was absolutely,
Well, now we can whip through Isaiah.
I was gonna say the hard part of that for me though, of what you just said, Carolyn, is like, you know, if you take racism as an example, on one hand, you have people of color that have experienced racism that are like, you're not listening to what I say of what's going on. And on the other hand, you have the people that are so insulated that they think reverse racism is going on and that all the Black people are out to get them.
mhm.
And it's hard for me to equate those two of like, I'm sorry, people don't understand your position and you think you're a victim, because like one of them has experienced inequality and one of them is making themselves a victim. You know what I mean? And I feel like that happens, like that happens with homophobia, that happens with sexism, you know, and so yes, people aren't understanding you and you feel like a victim, but like I can't equate that with what Black people are going through.
But I don't think you have to equate it. So for instance, I had a conversation with somebody who, I don't know if this person's a racist or not, Mary, but they were just saying something. They'd been on some tour. And of course, if there was a Black person involved, just one Black person, we had to talk about them for, 20 minutes up to 40 minutes, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of ridiculous. I go, yeah, well, we're doing that because they spent 400 years being oppressed and they still haven't recovered from it. So we're sort of trying to make up for all the horrible things we did in the past. And the guy just sort of looked at me and he got quiet. And he continued having conversations with me, but he stopped saying things like that. All right. Because that, and I hope that was, to me, that seemed gentle. Maybe that wasn't. To me, I wasn't saying you're an idiot or, that's a terribly racist thing to say. I was just pointing out, and I think you can say things like that. And it might, maybe that other person is just like not thinking like, there's literally, believe it or not, there are people who just don't acknowledge that we had 400 years of oppression in this country.
Yeah.
Well, and then there are people like me who went along for years and years and years and years thinking that I was not a racist and not being aware at all of my what is the word
You
I'm
grew
looking
up
for?
in racist institutions. It is in
I
the air
did.
we
Well,
breathe.
I did, but they were very subtle because I really did. I grew up in a neighborhood with everybody and we all played together. What I was not aware of was the institutionality of it and how much it benefited me until I started to see it. And then once I started to see it, I can't unsee it.
I mean, I've only figured that out in the last 3 years. So like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
And once you start to see it, so like I not only see it, but I also have very direct examples of my family. And so I can say something about my family to make a point that doesn't really put the other person on the spot.
Right.
And so that's sort of like, sometimes people talk to me and I'll say, well, yeah, in my own family, I only knew the history, like about other than my grandparents. Beyond that, I knew all kinds of stories on my dad's side. I knew no stories on my mom's side. And now I know they were slave owners. They knew that, come the 60s and 70s, this was not okay. And you're just really quiet.
We just don't.
So I have no stories on that side of the family for a very solid reason, I mean, I'm learning them now through documentation and stuff, but nobody talked about it. And it was something that was really obvious to all three children. My brothers and I all noticed that we had no stories about my grandparents' family.
Isn't that interesting?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So we went to such a, we whitewashed history so hard. And then when the hard facts came out, I'm not going to say these people were not racist. I think they continue to be racist. I know they did, some of them for a good long time, but I can say they knew it wasn't cool to be racist. How about that? So they didn't talk about it.
Well, I guess that's a step in the right direction.
No,
Um,
not really.
But yeah, there's Yeah, we've
But I
got-
find you can have a conversation if you personalize it and it's you. Like I'm talking about what was wrong in me and my family, not the other person. And they can extrapolate if they want or not.
Right. Well, and how do we, back to my original statement, how do we take, so I'm going to give us homework for next week. I'm going to say, let's finish, let's go ahead and finish Isaiah, because really these four, I found these last 4 chapters to be both beautiful and really easy to read. Thank heavens. Because man, I was sick of that other stuff. Wow. And there is so much beautiful poetry in it. There really is. But you had to slog through all of the look to get to it. But these last, read these, read the next. And our homework is to think about how these chapters genuinely and truly could be, we could pull something out of these as a starting point for our move into who we're going to be, who the church is going to be coming up. Or how, I was cutting out starfish. I've got paper fuzz all over my laptop. Or how we can take these things and use them very personally. Come up with 2 things each. Something either to definitely take to use or definitely take and not use, but 2 things about church and 2 things personally from the last 4 chapters. Because that's the one thing that I would really like to do, is to get back to make this, what does the Bible say to me about me and my life? Because there's a lot in there that really does speak to each and every one of us each and every day, I think. Again, my personal soapbox, but and there is, there's beautiful poetry and there's symmetry and, metaphors and all that great stuff. And what do we do with it? Great. What do we do with it? And with all of that, Mary, have you finished your dinner? What are you having, by the way, dear? I take it you're not having the corn salad that was complete anathema.
No, I've been trying to chop a stir fry for an hour because I keep getting distracted.
The stir frying takes a little bit of concentration there, doesn't it, girl?
Yes. And you have to be really careful so you don't lose the end of your fingers.
This is true.
Quick question, Carolyn, are we doing this, what you said originally, 56 through 66, or just what we're?
See? I chopped veggies.
Ooh, they're very
That's
pretty.
pretty.
What were we? We were 50, today was 58 through 62, and so we'll just finish through 66.
Okay, but you want the lessons just through from 53 on?
56 on. We'll do Isaiah 3.
56 on, okay.
Or
Do you want to meet next week, Carolyn, the day after Easter?
we had decided that we would. And then
Oh,
that we would then take the following Monday off. I would be perfectly happy if we want to take this vote again and push it back so that we're off Easter Monday and then meet on the 17th.
I'd
I'm
love to be off Easter Monday because my kids have off work, so we're gonna be doing stuff with them.
okay.
That would
Yeah.
work. That would work for me personally, just me.
Judy, do you have strong feelings on this?
Whatever, I'm,
That's kind of where
I'm
I
here.
was.
I'm here. Whatever you say, I'll come.
And
I'm
Mary,
here both days, but I always remember that Mary Beth said Jesus rose from the dead on Easter Sunday, but the church staff are not resurrected until Easter Monday. So
she's a wise woman, that Mary Beth. But it doesn't affect me anywhere near as much as it affects them. So, Lisa won't be here.
don't
Judy
eat
doesn't
plastic.
care.
Sorry.
Mary brought it up, so what are we doing? Show of hands. Meet on the 10th, yay or nay? All those in favor say aye. Okay, let's meet on the
They don't
17th.
care.
Because the best we can come up with is a null vote. Okay, all
Okay.
those in favor of meeting on the 17th, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're meeting on the 17th. Sorry,
Okay.
Barb. We changed our minds. Okay, you guys, have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy your dinner. What did you have for dinner, Lisa?
Peanut butter and jelly. I literally just got home from gardening stuff, so.
Oh, bless your heart. I had cod. It was lovely. Stuart made
You had cod. What did you have, Judy?
And corn salad, apparently.
Actually, we did, just Sarah.
I had homemade baked macaroni.
Ooh, yum.
Ooh.
I don't know. How you guys are all outclassing me, that's for sure.
I don't know. Peanut butter and jelly is one of my all-time favorite.
Well, it is
I like
mine
the
too, but I
jelly, but
try
I
to
don't
not
like
eat it
peanut
too often.
And I've been known to put a protein drink on my cereal, so I get some protein with my cereal for dinner.
Oh, I would never even think of that. in a million
It's not
years.
bad. If it's not the icky stuff that you buy, if you take the powder and you mix it up, it's not bad. It's not bad. The protein you need.
I noticed something. I've been making more vegetarian meals. Like we usually have like 2 a week, but I've been cooking nothing but vegetarian for a while. And
Go ahead.
Paul isn't
Sorry.
complaining, but he eats so much more food.
Isn't that
It's like
funny?
it's like he doesn't think he's getting enough food. He has like seconds and thirds. It's so funny to me. I don't know. I don't know whether it's his head, like this is not enough. What's going on?
I decided we don't eat, and we used to eat big, and now we eat very small little baby meals. And when I just got some blood work done, and when I got all the blood work back, one of the things that came back was I seem to not be taking in enough protein. So
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, I need to put protein in every meal, just a little bit.
Can you
but
eat nuts? Nuts are an
do.
awesome. Nuts and seeds are great proteins.
I do.
Nuts with chocolate tastes even better.
Oh, they do. Oh, they do. Yes, they do.
And you have your milk group there, you know.
That's true. That's true. You
So
guys,
like my nephew used to argue so hard. He's like, chocolate milk is really good for you.
it's milk.
It's good for your heart if it's dark chocolate.
It's
It was very
you.
funny.
And yeah,
You
by
know that
that
when my-
by that token, a chocolate bunny is actually protein.
There you go. There you go.
Our Lenten Bible study was KNOW chocolate for Lent. And the pastor at every meeting gave out some kind of, she told everybody they couldn't give up chocolate for Lent because one week we got a bag of Hershey's Kisses. Another week we got a
Ooh.
big chocolate bar. Yesterday we got
Did you get
hot
bunnies?
chocolate mix and marshmallow eggs. And
Mm.
this is going to
That
be
was
the
really
fattest
funny.
congregation you've ever seen.
She sounds like a lot of fun.
It was really funny. I really like that.
It's like a
No,
lot
and
of
you know.
fun.
I said she's really good and she's funny, but
Hmm.
I don't know about some of the people.
Well,
Well, that's always true.
yeah.
We're, all of us have, I'm probably one of the weirdos in some of my congregations. There's always some people who are challenging. It's just the way it is.
It is. It is.
Actually, one of the things I appreciated about Christian churches is that is,
But these are like some of the leaders
and
of
they
the
could-
church that, they talk behind her back and I don't like
But
that.
that's a shame.
well, no, that is called
That's a
gossip.
shame.
You're not one of the weirdos in our church.
I think we
Or
may
at
be all
least
just
you're in
weird,
good
all right?
company.
That's why I
You
said
have
I'm
to
not
try a lot
joining. I'll
harder.
go, but I'm not joining.
I have to try a lot harder.
So when Mary Beth during her sermon was saying all the things she did on the Polaroid scavenger hunt in her youth group, it was all I could do to not just bust out laughing from all the things that we did with the Polaroid scavenger hunt, like in the 90s. Like I wound up in the church dumpster, okay? Like everything she did was so tame.
Yeah, no, we had lots of those, but we didn't have anything like you didn't have to take a picture of it or anything. You had to usually you had to come back with some token of some sort. We sent people all over town. And people, I was always, we lived in small towns. And so I used to think this is a blessing because you couldn't do this in a city, right? You couldn't
Nope.
just send your kids off to some store owner and say you have to come back with a bag of,
Yeah.
mints. Or,
We're going to send you to Hell's Kitchen and we want you to bring back. Yeah. Oh,
We had a scavenger hunt too, but we went to only certain people's houses and they kind of had some things for us. So that I wasn't really a scavenger, but you couldn't go. Well, I lived in the city, so you didn't like just go anyplace.
Yeah, you weren't gonna go to Hell's Kitchen to get something.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the groups in
We
my
didn't do
scavenger
dumpster
almost
stuff.
got arrested. So
Wait, say that again, Mary?
one of the groups in our scavenger hunt almost got arrested for trying to climb on what is now Mary Austin's roof. But it was
Oh, wow. That actually seems kind of dangerous. I did think it's sort of amazing that they had the picture of you in a cop car. We never ever did that to our kids.
Oh yeah. And by the time my group got there, the cops knew there was a scavenger hunt. So they said, "You're group number 5. Who wants to be in the handcuffs?" Like,
We actually, so one of my favorite stories of all the scavenger hunts was that you would win a prize for bringing the biggest thing back to the church. So we never did this again because what happened is that one group went to a like an automotive place and came back with a ginormous truck tire. I mean, it took all 8 of them to roll it, and they rolled it down the main street with a cop walking beside them because he was going to make sure it went back to the automated. But he helped them get this humongous thing to our church. So that we never put that out there again because they won. They totally won. But we weren't ever going to have that duplicated.
I didn't go to youth group. But in my high school, they did deconstruct the headmaster's Volkswagen and reconstruct it in his office on the 2nd floor.
That's amazing.
I have photographic evidence. It was amazing.
And it
Bugging.
worked. Like it worked again when they put it back together?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. I'm
Yeah.
amazed by that. That's a
And-
big deal.
It was either immediately before or after they stole all the staff's car and put it on the front lawn. And honest, the headmaster's name was Ed. Honest Ed's used car lot.
Oh my God.
Um,
You guys pulled serious pranks.
They were
Wow.
Funny. I was not that I wasn't part of that cool group, but I really enjoyed it.
You enjoyed
Laughing
watching
at
their
them.
antics. Yeah.
Really enjoyed laughing.
I was really lucky, I felt, because I grew up in a neighborhood so Episcopal Church was the neighborhood church. And they had a really great youth group and everybody went. But I
Wasn't
mean,
that neat?
kids who were Jewish went, the kids who were Catholic went. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody went. And they were just the friends in the neighborhood and we all just went and played, with the youth
Mhm.
group. So that was kind of cool.
Shoot, I would show you a picture of the bugging, but I don't have it in here. It's
The
really a
bug-
funny picture.
the
That's what they
best
call
prank that I was gonna say, the best prank I know of, and it was my friends, but unfortunately I was out of town, but it was tradition that the college students would prank the youth pastor when he was on one of the youth trips. And they saran wrapped Bill's office,
Oh,
which
God.
is now Andy's office, I think. Like they got 3 of those industrial rolls from Costco. I want to burn my dinner. And like individual pencils, and then together, and then in the pencil container, and then to the desk. Like it took
Good
them like
Lord.
4 hours. Like when Bill walked in, like he couldn't even see what was what. And, like the phone rang, and he couldn't tell like what lump was the phone. Like
Okay.
and so he's like, individual books, and then together, and then into the bookcase, right? And
That's
so
so elaborate. Wow.
Do you
That's as good
remember-
as the Volkswagen prank.
right. So he was like, well, I'm not going to cut everything loose. I'm going to see what I actually use. Like if it's still saran wrapped in like a month or so, like I'll know I don't need it. But for a while, he just had to have the saran wrap, the X-Acto knife on his desk.
Just in case.
Because like if he needed something, he had to cut it loose.
Okay, no, the next youth pastor down.
And,
They were someplace. Everybody had a cell phone. They put all of their cell phones on him while he was asleep and then called him.
Oh, God.
All went off at the same time. He nearly had a heart attack.
this is also noteworthy because Ed hates pranks.
Oh.
They were not his favorite thing. Usually because teenagers are not great at knowing how to do a good prank. Like the
Yeah.
saran wrap was really funny, right?
That's a very
But like when you're 15 or you're 12, like you either often
What you
just
think
make
is funny
fun
may
of
not actually be.
Yeah, or like you really hurt someone's feelings,
Yeah.
because like like a good prank, you need to not hurt somebody and not actually mess anything up. It just needs
Right.
to be really funny. And so he was like, yeah, 13-year-olds are terrible at that. I don't like pranks. So that's like doubly good that they got him that way.
It
I
was
got in
pretty funny.
huge trouble once because I was always on the mission trips, and we had a bunch of high school guys who decided to shave. They had a couple things they were doing. They were just doing things with their hair. So some of them shaved their head, some of them bleached parts of their hair. And so
They had polka dots.
yeah, that's right. They were doing polka dots and things like that. It was very weird. And I just think that's like, I think one of the reasons my kids never did weird things with their hair, had tattoos, because I really didn't care. So it literally didn't occur to me this was like not a good idea. I just thought, it's hair. It'll grow back, right?
Right.
And guess what? So one of my oldest son's best friends was in a family of 4 boys. They had a family wedding the weekend after the mission trip. And I sent 2 of her sons home with bleached polka dot hair. She didn't talk to me for like 6 weeks. She was so angry. And I literally didn't think about it. I just didn't think about it. I just didn't go anywhere in my head. I never.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah. No, I colored someone's hair on the way home with the retreat with like magic markers. Like we were just, that was my mom's philosophy too. Like if the worst thing you do is dye your hair a strange color, like it's hair, When I was 13, I asked her if I could put green in my hair because like it was the thing to like dye some of your hair with Kool-Aid. And I didn't have Kool-Aid, but I had food coloring. And my mom was like, I don't really care what you do with the food with your hair, but if you get that all over the bathroom, I will kill you. And I was like, noted. So I was very, very careful.
Yes.
And I, dyed my hair with food coloring because I was 13 and it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Well, my lesson that I learned was it last year or the year before, I dyed my hair green for New Year's Eve. They said it would be gone in 6 weeks. 6 months later, I still had green hair. That was just like not true. But my son couldn't figure out because actually my son and his wife dyed their hair too. And so we all went together with our dyed hair. And I think part of it is I dyed like this huge section that was from the top down. So it took forever for it to grow out, right? But also I have long hair, so I only wash my hair once a week. And my son washed hair every single day. So finally, my daughter-in-law said, you need to start washing your hair more often. I bet it'll help. But I will never do that again. Not because I didn't find good hair, because it took forever to get rid of. Forever. And I was trying to grow my hair out for Locks of Love. So I had to wait for 6 months to cut my hair for Locks of Love because I had to wait for it all to get out of there.
Oh, that's really funny.
Oh, at that
Well,
point,
I think gray takes color really well. That's my
I was
theory.
gonna say actually, because you're not that gray, but you have a little bit.
Oh, I
of,
am.
like,
I'm very gray. It's just
okay.
underneath.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, gray is different with dye. It just does.
I learned.
Yeah.
I had
go-
purple dye. I just threw out. I gave away the purple dye because I had we were trying to decide between green and purple. I saw the purple dye. I was cleaning out the bathroom. I'm like, oh, this is never happening. Somebody wants this.
Go with some nice blue, and it'll be a whole new way of going and being a blue hair.
We have a whole section of our family that I'm not sure that the women or the men in that family. Oh, I love.
sweet pea.
I'm getting clawed.
I don't think the guys or the girls have ever had normal hair. I mean, they have normal hair, but they always have like
Something.
pieces of it that are teal or rose or yellow or kinds of things.
So.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. I love you. I'm going to bed.
I love you. Take care.
You're not gonna stay up and watch the basketball game?
No, don't care. Stuart will tell me all about it tomorrow.
There you go. There you go.
Night, guys.
Take care. Bye bye, Judy. Bye bye, Mary.
Night, y'all.
Happy blessed
Easter.
Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter.
Yes.
Happy
Happy
Easter.
Easter.